friends. ISC is back, and since I'm not doing the weekly reviews anymore, I figured I might as well watch them and have some reactions or something. I don't know. Let's watch ISC.
For me, when it comes to exploring areas in a game, I tend to prefer when I've earned something.
So when you've had to fight
Fair
to
enough.
get past some people to get somewhere, you expect there to be something cool to find, something to make it worthwhile.
There are just some things that you just don't go and buy in a store, things that you have to go out and find. That's, I feel,
Ooh.
one of the most important, have to go out and find.
Ooh. That feels like
That's,
this is like one of the first times I've seen video on ISC that looks like an actual finished game. Like an actual setup scenario in a game. That looks nice. I want to run a mission here.
I feel, one of the most important aspects of gaming.
I do like my loot.
I've often found that if there's no tangible reward, whether it's something that you bring away from there or something that you find that maybe leads to something else to discover, that something can be lost in the experience of exploration.
Imagine you go into some dungeon you're excited to explore, and there's NPCs there just kind of standing around, but there's nothing to find. There's crates, but they're empty. There's storage with nothing in it. Not only is it disappointing from a gameplay perspective, you don't get any of the cool loot you were hoping for, but it just doesn't make sense. What were all these people doing there with no food, no supplies, nothing? You want there to be something amazing
chilling.
at the end.
No party.
So we're working on this new system called loot generation.
We have built this system on the foundation of the harvestable system.
Which is going to empower our designers to set up locations all across the verse to be filled with dynamically generated loot.
They function using a system we've called loot archetypes, which are on-the-fly generated sets of tags.
So the idea is that a designer can lay out a list of tags that they want items in the loot pool to match, and then maybe some that they don't. So you can say, I want things that are tagged with weapon, but not things that are tagged with ammunition. And then what really makes it powerful is it's not just a uniform distribution of, okay, we have all of these potential items, just pick one at random. When the designers are specifying tags to use, they can assign a weight to each one and say, I want rifles with a weight of 5, and I want pistols with a weight of 10. So you're twice as likely to get a pistol in
Probability.
This
This is pretty
we have,
robust.
like, full control over how many items spawn, what specifically spawns. We could even, if we wanted to, and I've actually been doing the tagging for this myself, we could actually tell a loot archetype, hey, spawn me a bunch of armor that's red. Your loot archetype could have the weapon.fps.rifle tag as an example, and that would then give you the option of all of the weapons that spawn underneath that, or that are populated underneath that tag structure. And you may then have armor.fps.heavy, which would give you all of the selection of the heavy armors under that. And then it could be gadget.medkit. So you would then have a loot archetype that says, give me any rifle or any heavy piece of armor or any medkit.
They could very easily
It's
use
been a
this
lot
to
of work
theme
get it working that
places.
way, but all of
so
it sort of works
fast.
in conjunction with each other, and with some of the future stuff coming down the pipe as well, such
Wow.
as Quanta.
I wonder if this is the
loot
standard way
generation
of doing
system
it.
actually will read from the parent object containers that we use in the game at the moment. So, say you're spawning containers on Hurston. Your main object container would be Hurston. And then let's say you've got Lorville, which would be L19. And then inside that, you might have, let's say that we expand the city and there's like an abandoned hovel underneath that's maybe occupied by pirates. If Quanta decides, oh, okay, so authorities came, cleared that place out, that place is now no longer a pirate base, it's now storage site for Hurston Dynamics, then all of the containers in that area then might switch to be containing Hurston equipment. Quanta can then determine way up the chain, way at the top, this is how things are now happening because AI has moved in, things have happened, things have changed, and the archetypes and the loot generation system reacts on the fly to that.
So they're saying if Quantum says that there's a probability that a pirate base is taken over by a security faction, that will all happen in the background and the location will update its assets to reflect that. Just all over the place. That's pretty crazy, right? That's pretty nuts. Is that real? Wow.
So if Quanta was to decide this planet has been raided, it's been full of conflict, there's been wars here, like people are leaving in droves because it's not safe to be here anymore. The status of that planet, the richness of that planet. This is pretty
cool. I want to play this
as well.
I want to do this.
Where then the loot generation system says, okay, where most of these containers might have been 50 to 60% full as they were, now we're only going to fill them up to like 20 to 30%. It's all about adapting on the fly to where you're at, what you're doing, and seeing what can be.
So where we're at right now is we've got a pretty solid base for internal testing. We're trying out marking up a few different locations with some containers, mainly filled with weapons and armor at the moment.
That reminds me of an old
hoping to expand that to other items in the future.
And we hope that it provides an immersive experience more than anything else. That
may
people
not
can
actually
get
reflect.
About this.
Yeah, you imagine trying to store all your boxes with guns just sticking out of the top like that, just falling over everywhere.
Sort of
would be cool if we could shop like that, though.
Thing that they know that when they go to a planet once, they might go back a few weeks later, and it's just completely different.
Oh, this is definitely a call. This is a callback. Oh, I'm gonna make a video out of this. I'm gonna put that on Twitter. Keep an eye out on Twitter. You'll see what I mean.
Loot is an essential part of any MMO, and when it arrives later this year, it'll be one more step towards fulfilling the exploration-based promise of Star Citizen's persistent universe.
That's what kind of gets me. They use the word explore quite a few times in this video. Like, this is very clearly a feature for the exploration profession. And that's just another profession that they're showing that they're starting to work on. Not necessarily in the actual features of those professions, but in the supporting features, which is pretty exciting.
But up next, we've got a special Oops, It's All VFX edition of the Sprint Report. So let's
Shiny
get to
things.
It. To start things off this week, if you remember from our last
this is in 3.14,
report,
right?
We showed how the team had been working on an update to the thruster dust system that converts the existing particles from a radial effect to a directional one that's actually based on the thruster direction to any surface normal it may be hitting at any given moment. Now this causes the effect to change not only by the raycast angle being perpendicular or parallel to the surface, but also the strength of the thruster output, the type of surface itself, and the force of the surrounding wind volume. And you can see here how that tech has progressed in the weeks since.
While this is good, I still feel like I can't tell where the individual thrusters are hitting the ground. I think we could use some more noticeable VFX on the thrusters themselves. I think a lot of people I've heard other people talk about this. I think that would be very helpful, though, in helping to sell the power of these thrusters and what the heck is going on with them. And they did change the brightness in this newest update, which does help from a distance, but something that helps with closer proximity would be nice too.
We showed it. Now, while this update showcases the progress made since then and still has a little ways to go, folks are already thinking about the myriad of tactical uses this feature might have in things like the upcoming Jumptown 2, over bodies of water like rivers and oceans, and even against the soft body objects like those seen in the upcoming colonialism outposts.
Nice teasers, dude.
Alpha 3.14 sees the initial implementation of Orison, but the work doesn't stop there. And coming up in a subsequent patch, the VFX team is currently working on tech that uses vector fields around the player character's feet to disturb the various piles of cherry blossom leaves.
I was talking about this. They should totally do this. I'm excited that they're doing that. That's awesome. That'll probably come with Orison V2, which means maybe I will wait to do my cinematic. That's going to be pretty.
To accumulate around the commercial and residential areas. Now, while the first implementation of this tech will be Orison, the team is already looking ahead to utilizing it in other areas, including on vehicles. So let your imaginations run wild with that one.
jungles.
All
Yes.
right, not that wild.
Sorry.
And while we're talking leaves, the team recently completed a sprint adding rotation effects to GPU screen space colliding particles, utilizing the velocity of an object to determine the amount and size of turn applied to leaves, making for a much more organic looking effect as they blow over the edge of a surface and fall to wherever down below.
What?
And we're pleased to report that this feature was working so nicely, it actually just went into PTU builds last week for Alpha 3.14. Currently in the persistent universe, weapon impacts on ships occur in what's called the ship zone, which causes the impact effects like sparks and such to stick to the ship, meaning it essentially gets carried along with it as it moves forward,
Right,
which
yes,
looks
that's
unnatural.
not correct.
But in a recent sprint, this was remedied so that now the effects trail behind as the ship moves away from the original point of impact,
Ooh.
much as one would expect them to.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little thing, but at the core of building an immersive universe are
You don't think
hundreds and
about those
hundreds of
things.
little things adding up to a
You really do not think about that. I mean, some of you do, who are much more observant than I, but I guess I'll say I just don't think about that. I'm over here taking cinematics, and I literally do not think about that kind of thing. And then you see it, and you're like, oh yeah, okay.
universe that functions or behaves in believable and expected ways. And
Love
here's
it.
a second look at the same system in Atmo, where you can see the sparks fly up into the air against
Oh
gravity in
my-
the old system, and now falling down to the surface as you'd expect them to in the new. The VFX team is also exploring several different destruction mosaics for the space station orbiting above and the Crossroads of Crime map for Theaters of War. Since these destructions being explored are simulation-based in the Houdini software, these mosaics utilizing various factors of stiffness and damping ratio allow for a degree of art direction not normally available. Plus,
Totally looking to see if they throw a sneaky model of Port Olisar in there as like a little, but they didn't.
it just kind of looks cool to see all the different ways the thing can explode, you know? Also always cool, lightning.
Yes,
Now previously, lightning
definitely.
across our games suffered from a number of different maladies, including poor performance and poor scaling effects. But due to
Oh my
recent
God.
R&D by the team and the use of instanced scale multipliers and ribbons, the team has not only found a way to author these same effects at a wide range of scales,
Oh.
but the use of ribbons reduces the
Boy,
need for
do
high
this. CIG, put this in the game in the gas clouds now. Do it.
particle counts in the runtime GPU particle system.
That is beautiful.
What's that mean? It means more developers can use more lightning in more areas without destroying their performance budget. And that's especially good news for the upcoming Pyro system and the visual revamp to the Dying Star map in Arena Commander that's currently underway.
Pyro's gonna be so
And
good
wrapping
looking.
up our look at VFX this week, the team has returned from a brief hiatus away from fire propagation to create their version of a concept. A cinematic look dev, if you will, at the goals for fire propagation, utilizing the tech features and progress already in hand.
Gosh.
What you see here is a basic electrical fire in a relatively
Basic.
high-tech environment, exploring the type of propagation effects the team are currently pursuing. Now, as a test exclusively for how the fire moves and spreads throughout the ship,
It's
there are
melting.
still
It's melting, guys. It is melting onto the floor. What?
a number of limiting visual factors here, like the still outstanding shader work that will one day make the fire feel even more alive than it already does.
Good.
As the fire moves across the white surface that is flammable, you can see it dripping down to ignite the same surface below.
See it?
While interacting with the black, glass-like surface on the ceiling that is understandably resistant.
I gotta say, how long is it gonna take for every ship to be able to I hope that kind of fire is somehow linked to the capacitor, the relay system that they have. Oh boy.
Combined with the heat and noxious gases affecting players via the actor status system, it's an exciting look ahead at some of the new dangers and hazards players will encounter and have to deal with on a regular basis as Star Citizen's development continues. But before we let you go, let's jump ahead and see what happens when you ignore the fire and let it go about its business for about half an hour.
Wow. I wonder how much this actually leaves the ship unusable. Can I still use that
So what did we learn this
elevator?
week? Well, we learned that.
What did we learn this week? That this game is freaking ridiculous. This game is insane, and this was a VFX specific episode. This is not the normal Inside Star Citizen episode. If this is your first time seeing one, you'll get sprint reports with different types of things. We'll probably get a more gameplay focused one in the coming weeks, but loot was pretty cool. The VFX were great. The cherry blossoms thing is cool. The lightning stuff is dope. The fire stuff is gonna be incredible when it comes to working on bigger ships. Definitely an engineering gameplay getting involved. And just all around, the VFX update feels so much like the pure quality of life update, like the update that makes everything look that much better. So it's fun to see a good VFX update. Nice little eye candy to open up the season too. And loot sounding pretty good for not just exploration, but also missions. So I'm excited to see what they do more with that. Probably something we'll see in 3.15. And yeah, we'll talk more about that later on in the coming months. This was a reaction because, I don't know, I like Star Citizen and I wanted to make more content about it. It's late, it's like midnight, so I think these will be a normal kind of late night thing where I'll just hang out and do these kind of casually, but I hope you guys liked it, and if you want to see more, let me know down below. Have a good day.